now with Scott Radley. Scott, please go ahead.
Thank you, Scott. Good to see you. Ted, good to see you. Scott, last time we spoke at the year-end press conference, one of the things you had said was that you were in talks with Chris Jones about coming back. That obviously didn't work. Can you explain where that went? Was that a thing where he decided to go down to the States, or you couldn't reach a contract? How did that go?
Yeah, let me just start by saying nobody in the CFL has more respect for Chris Jones than I did and or do. What he was able to do in the last 7 weeks of the season with our defense, I thought was outstanding. I'm happy for Chris. He's closer to home. Great opportunity, obviously, working with Coach Belichick. I still believe he's one of the greats in our league. I'm not going to get into too much of what happened around contractually and all that sort of stuff, but we're thrilled to have Brent Monson. Actually, Brent Monson came highly recommended by Chris Jones. Teddy has history with him, and it's great to bring him home. I've spent some time with him last night down here. I had dinner with him and O, and we're just really excited about where we're going. But the specifics of what did or didn't happen with Chris, I'm not going to get into those.
Is there a belief? Because I mean, different people bring different things. Is there a belief that the defense, as you alluded to, the improvements in the last half of the season, that there can be continuity with a new guy in charge?
I'm sorry, one more time, Scott.
With the improvements that you saw with Chris at the end of the year, as you described, you believe that even though you're going to have a different person there, that there can be continuity, that those improvements can continue?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, right? Chris Jones' style of defense is going to be probably very different than what Brent's is. So as far as the whole continuity thing, it'd be hard for me to argue that there can be a lot of continuity with a new face there. But what Brent is planning on doing, the things that we've discussed, based around our personnel and the personnel that we hope to get, making some changes defensively, I think Brent is the guy that we want, and I'm excited to have him here. We'll try to get that continuity quickly, but there's always a little bit of a process.
One more thing, just you mentioned the personnel. You're here now for a second year. You're very familiar now, way more familiar than you were when you came in last year with the guys who are here. Does that change the level of input you would have with Ted when you're talking about guys this year, or changes you're making now that you know them so much better?
I think Teddy would, and we've been together before, right, in Toronto, so I've known him for over a decade. I think there would have been a collaboration anyway. But to your point, I certainly do know our players a lot better this year than I did last year. So I think my opinion is going to be, I don't want to say more valued, but there's more based on it. And I have relationships with some of these guys, and I understand, why some guys maybe didn't have the numbers that they could have had we been running different schemes, things like that. So just having the time spent with those guys, understanding what was going on within the building, who can really help us, who's good in the locker room, who's got some leadership ability. I think all those things are valuable when you've been through it with them for at least a year.
Thank you.
And thank you, Scott. Next up, we'll go to Rick St. Baron. Rick, please go ahead.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Ted. Good to see you guys. Ted, let's get you in on the fun here and talk a little bit about free agency. I know it's a little over a month away. Have you created a wish list? And if so, how many players are on that wish list?
Well, I expect that we'll be looking to sign some guys in free agency for sure. The wish list is pretty large right now, just based on, a lot of guys aren't re-signed. So that can change. It does change daily, and we monitor it daily and relate it back to our cap, and we'll be making decisions, in the next couple of weeks. It's fluid.
Where does David Beard fall on that hierarchy?
He's definitely a priority for us. I mean, the unique thing about, our team is, we got a really good offensive line, and there's a brotherhood there. And, I coached O-line for a long time. And, I think there's one thing: when you got a good O-line and you got continuity there, I don't think players want to leave that room. And we certainly don't want them to. So I think there's common ground and common interest, but, that'll be, a decision that'll be coming up shortly.
Scott, one for you. You and Bo Levi Mitchell worked wonders last year. He was an MOP candidate and deservedly so. Do you have a feeling in your gut that he can replicate or duplicate what he did last year in 2025?
I do. I fully expect him to improve on it, and it took us a little while, like happens. New system, um, new process of playing the position, and I did breakdowns. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I did breakdowns of what he did the last 7 or 8 games of the season versus the first 12 or 11, and the improvement was large. And that comes with reps. And sometimes coaches, myself included, we get impatient. We want it to happen now. We've seen it. We've seen guys do it, and they're kind of the last 40% of the season. It felt like things started to click for both. So I fully expect what we saw at the end and better going forward. I think we have a much better understanding of. I have a much better understanding of what he's good at and how he can help us, and I think he has a better understanding of what I'm looking for from the quarterback play.
Last one from me, and either or both of you can answer this, and it's regarding the CFL schedule. Do you have any drop date insight, and does the schedule generate more internal excitement?
No, I don't have any insight.
Ted, how about the excitement part?
Well, I mean, we'll play whoever's on the schedule, so I don't really wrap my head around that, No, not really. Me neither.
Appreciate the effort, though.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, guys. Have fun.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Rick, thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Frank Stanici. Frank, please go ahead.
Hey, Scott, good to see you. And Ted. My question is to both of you. Cap is a challenge, and you spoke about continuity, and that's a big challenge in that regard. How helpful is it to have a player who's sold on the system that he's willing to negotiate, like Bo Levi Mitchell did?
I can answer from my perspective. I think it's extremely important. Back to Scott's question about continuity. Somebody asked about David Beard. You're talking about team leaders. You're talking about players that love the Hamilton area. You're talking about people that you want to have in your organization, and guys like that are a priority. And that's how I feel about David as well. So I think all those things. It sounds like you're talking about trying to get a hometown discount. I think there's a fine line there with players and what their situation is financially and family and all those things. But you hope the culture and the experience that guys are getting in your building counts for something. And so if it's tie, they choose you.
So Ted, you want to wait?
Yeah, sure. I'll speak to that as well. I think that, it depends on what stage of the career a player's at. I mean, there's been situations where, a player has been offered substantially more money to go somewhere else. And, I've gave him my blessings and let him know that I wasn't bluffing, that I was seriously, this is what I could pay. But I think we're at a situation where, our guys that have been there for a while, they want to win. They understand how to win, the continuity part, and they just want to be paid fairly. And I understand that. I'm not really big on building it on mercenaries, right? I want guys that are committed to doing it together. And, I hope to be there right with them, making it happen. And sometimes it means that you're playing for, 10 grand less, but after taxes and this, in our economy, it's really not that much money. So, every player situation is different, but, we expect to pay market value for our guys.
So I guess I can add who you play with matters as well as where.
I think in this sport, who you play with is really important, especially in different units. There's certain position groups where, if you feel good about playing with the guy beside you and you enjoy your teammates, you're going to want to stick around because, I've taken jobs for more money and, I spent all the money, right?
You were talking about what was in the back of my mind. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Frank. With the number of questions we currently have lined up, we ask that you kindly limit yourselves to a single question and one follow-up. Next up, we'll go to John Hodge. John, if you please.
John Hodge, 3 Down Nation. Thanks for doing this, gentlemen. My first question is for Ted. It would appear as though your first order of business in Hamilton was renegotiating the contract for Bo Levi Mitchell. I'm not expecting you to get into the financials or anything, but I was wondering what you could share about that process and in dealing with Bo and working with him.
Sure. Without getting the specifics of the contract, John, as you mentioned, a lot of Bo's contract, because he was coming off an injury, was based on incentives. And I think Bo's fully recovered and had a great season. And so I chose to restructure that contract and make it a little bit more fair to both sides. And we were able to do that quite smoothly, which freed up some cap space for us moving forward.
My second question is, I suppose for both of you, maybe we'll start with Ted. And I'm asking all the teams this. I'm not trying to single anybody out, but I'm wondering if you could share how many years you signed with Hamilton as the GM, Ted, and Scott, if you wanted to share how many years you've got on your contract in Hamilton as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, John, but I've never shared length of contract, and I'm not going to now either, but I appreciate the question.
I'm day to day, John.
You day to day?
I work hard every day. Every day could be my last day. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we'll go to Bubba O'Neill. Bubba, go ahead.
Hey, guys, Bubba O'Neill, CHCH. Scott, Ted, good to see you. It's interesting because you guys have had a prior relationship, but how does this work together right now as you guys come together? I mean, Ted, you obviously have your opinions of what you want your team to be, and I guess it would have to be sort of in lockstep with what Scott expects as well too. So when you guys sit together and come together and what you want, obviously, Scott, you have more knowledge of the team being there a year longer. How does that synergy work?
I'll speak to that one. Bubba, I've always felt like in my role in our side of the building with the scouts, our job's to give the coaches every resources they have to be successful. And so, my job's to get our scouts connected with the coaches and get a better understanding of what they feel the team's at and what we need to do to get better and for us to execute that. That's always, wherever I've worked, that's the plan. It's not necessarily what I want. It's what the team needs and what the head coach feels he needs to be successful. And so I operate on that premise.
So then I'll come down to where we are right now. And Scott, again, you've been with this team. What's the wish list? I mean, you obviously have an idea of who's going to probably move along. I mean, again, and honestly, I mean, there's obviously weaknesses and strengths in the team. The quarterback room looks good. I think you have your running back selected. What would be on that wish list, or positionally at least?
Yeah, again, I don't know that that's in our best interest for me to disclose that publicly with free agency coming up. But I will add this to your question that Teddy kind of answered, and he and I, this is one of the first conversations we had. The relationship, in my opinion, is the coaches give the scouts a wish list, understanding that they're not going to get everybody that you want. It's impossible. It'll never happen. Their job is to try to get that, and then once they get who they get, it's our job to fit a scheme around what the guys we have to make them have the best position or best possibility to be successful. And I mean, I could give you the wish list. Like I was watching Justin Jefferson last night. I would love to have him playing in the slot with a waggle, but I mean, we're going to kind of wait and see what happens in terms of who we're able to get. Obviously we need to make some adjustments on defense. We've got some free agents that are important guys, some of whom we've already discussed, but we'll try to start hopefully with getting our guys back, and then I know Teddy and his staff will do a great job of plucking talent.
Looking forward to seeing you guys weave your magic.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Bubba. We'll move next to Jeff Hamilton. Jeff, please go ahead.
Hey guys, Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. I'm just interested about your guys' relationship, and it's perfect seeing that you're both now on the podium right now. Scott, I'm not going to pretend to know either of you overly personally, but Scott, you seem like the definition of no nonsense. And Ted, you're not really short on opinions. So I'm wondering how exactly you guys coexist together, how your relationship works, and why you think it's going to work in Hamilton, hand in hand.
I guess I'll take this one. It helps that we've had a prior relationship. We worked together. We had success together. I think one of the things I really appreciate about Teddy is we both can have strong opinions and respect those opinions without being sensitive when there's a disagreement. And I'm of the belief that you want people with strong opinions that have specific knowledge on an area. Like we're talking about quarterbacks, I'm going to have a very strong opinion on guys, but that's not to say I'm not going to listen to what Teddy and his staff are saying, and vice versa. Because really, all we want to do is get the best guys in the best positions to be successful. And that the fact that we won a Grey Cup together, he's gone on and had a tremendous amount of success, and we've known each other for over a decade. I'm sure there'll be times where we'll have disagreements when we're pissed at each other for a day or two, but it's not a situation where I have any concern whatsoever that the working relationship isn't going to be fantastic. And it's no different than when, I was talking to some guys yesterday, interviewing a coach, and coaches always want to hire people that they know because they've been through battle with them. They know what to expect. They know how they're going to react to this or to that. And the fact that Teddy and I have that going into this relationship, I think, is critical.
Yeah, Jeff, part of what makes it work is if you surround yourself with people that work hard and put the time in, you should want to hear their opinion. And whether there's a disagreement, sometimes it's really an opportunity to learn from each other. So I don't dissuade anybody from having an opinion. It's just how do we resolve a disagreement? And usually, I've been proven wrong and I've been proven right, but it's really about making the right decisions for the team, not who made the decision or how we got there. That'll be kind of private and backdoor. But I believe we're both hard workers. We both want the same thing, and through any conflict, there's going to be growth. I mean, I'm pretty good in some areas, and Scott has probably some strengths. Well, I know he does in other areas that I don't. I've never thrown a football. I don't think I ever got a hand on a football in my whole life. So I'm not afraid of those situations. I just know that we're both hardworking and we want the same thing. So I think it will work. Absolutely.
Yeah, certainly wasn't questioning it. Just the last one for you, Ted. You're finally in that chair, that GM chair. Took a bit of time. Took some processes. I'm wondering if maybe this is for your conversations with the league. Maybe not publicly, but is there something that can be learned about assistant general managers and trying to get that job, trying to get that promotion to a GM? I know we saw La Police all those years ago. Turned into the Lapo rule, right? Now that, with the whole whatever. And now I'm wondering if there couldn't be a Teddy Goveia rule out there.
Yeah, I don't know how deep I want to go into that answer, Jeff. I will say this, that, I've always been growth minded, and my extra time in Winnipeg, I enjoyed it. I got to continue to grow in my role and continue to learn from the people that I worked with and the people I was surrounded with. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I think I landed in a good place. So, maybe there's a blessing in there. And, at the league level, I'm sure it may be a conversation, but, I probably won't be the one starting it, but I'll be present.
Right on. Best of luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We'll now go to our three final questions, beginning again with Scott Radley. Scott, please proceed.
Ted, I asked Scott this at the beginning of last year, so I'll give you a crack at it now because he's had a year. People around here have waited a long time and are still waiting. You've come from a program that's done an awful lot of winning. How much pressure do you feel on yourself to finally end that streak and help Scott and help the team finally get that Grey Cup? Because it's been a long, long time, as we all know.
Yeah, and that's a good question, Scott. I mean, I think about it. Obviously, the goal's to win wherever I am. That's the responsibility of the job. Pressure is an interesting word. This is kind of the world we live in, regardless of where you've been. So, for me, I'm not going to operate under the weight of that pressure and make silly decisions. It takes time to build something. And, obviously the goal is to win day one and to line up every week with an opportunity to win. And ultimately, that's where I believe we're going to get to, where, the coaches and players can look at each other before we take the field on game day, knowing that if we put the work in during the week and improve every week, that at the end we got a chance to win the Grey Cup. I mean, that is the goal, but I wouldn't include added pressure as part of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Scott. We'll now go to Justin Dunk. Justin, please go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this. Scott, first one for you. I'm just curious how it went with Bo from him, and I don't want to categorize it the wrong way, but from being sat down or benched or however you want to say it, going with Taylor Powell to then lighting it up in the second half. And now it seems like, and I guess I'll ask it in the form of a question, is he your unquestioned starter going into training camp and for the 2025 season?
I'll answer your last question first. Yes, he is the unquestioned starter. I mean, you played quarterback, didn't you, Justin? Were you ever benched?
I think it did happen, yeah.
So, I mean, anytime, especially at that position, you're so prideful, you put so much into it, it hurts. And I'm sure Bo was quite pissed at me, but I will say this, and this, my respect for him grew, which I already had it. He handled it extremely well and supported Taylor, and Taylor got hurt and Bo got his second opportunity. I don't like to wade into the whole benching thing helped improve him. I don't really believe that. I just think, as I look back on the season, it was just the reps started to add up and things started to click and decisions were made a little faster and I was calling better plays and, everything kind of happened at once. But I was really proud of Bo and it's hard to go through that. A lot of pressure on him. He did well, was consistent. His teammates have a ton of belief in him, which is you got to have that, right, with your quarterback. So he is our unquestioned starter. And like I said earlier, I fully expect him to build on this and have even a better year.
And you believed going into last year that he could have a Anthony Calvillo-like resurgence. How long do you think he can keep it going? Like, it seemed like there for a little while he might have kind of been year to year himself, but coming off this year, it seems like he could play into his 40s.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of history of Bo, the last 5 or 6 years because I wasn't in the league, but I will say this, he was in much better shape this year than when I saw him a year ago. And, just kind of depending on health. I know Anthony, because I watched him, worked so hard at his diet and his the different things that he did in terms of, he has this thing called the high trainer that he wore. I mean, he almost found the fountain of youth. I think Bo, if he stays healthy, can have a number of more good years. But that's always a question mark. He's going to have to work at it like he did last year. And I think the older you get, I know this myself, the older you get, the harder it is to stay in good shape and you got to work harder. So I think that's a question for Bo and what his dedication is going to look like and how long he wants to play.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. We'll now go back to Bubba O'Neill. Bubba, please go ahead.
Sorry, guys, I'll keep this real quick just because it's kind of local. Bills or Ravens?
Oh,
I got to go Bills. I've got a couple of friends that are working there and got to support the boys.
I'm the same. I got a lot of friends in Buffalo. I've been at their training camp for 15 years. So I gotta take the Bills.
All right.
Good
guys,
question.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Bubba. We'll now wrap things up with Rick Zamperin. Rick, please go ahead.
Thanks. One last one for me, and this one is for Scott. You mentioned you were interviewing a coach the other day. Do you have a timeline for when the coaching staff is going to be solidified?
It is 90% done. I would think in the next week or two that it'll be, I got to talk to Scott and those guys. I don't know when they want to announce, but we should have it wrapped up and finalized here in the next week or two at the most.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much. Ted, Coach, Thank you so much for making the time for us today. We appreciate it.
Watch
Thanks,
out for
guys.
Pat from Simone, eh, Ted? Watch out. Number 21 hat. Watch out for it. He's coming for you.
Good deal.
Thank you,
I
guys.
will.